Certainly.
Asataya,
By the quality of being insubstantial. Yena, by whom? Krita Prayatna, although eager to serve. Translation: Who is that mystic yogi who can follow the examples of Lord Rishabdeva even with his mind? Lord Rishabdeva rejected all kinds of yogic perfection which other yogis hanker to attain. Who is that yogi who can compare to Lord Rishabdeva? Purport: Generally, yogis desire the yogic perfections of anima, lagima, mahima, prakamya, prapti, ishitva, vashitva, and kamavasaipa. Lord Rishabdeva, however, never aspired for all these material things. Such siddhis, perfections, are presented by the illusory energy of the Lord. The real purpose of the yoga system is to achieve the favor and shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but this purpose is covered by the illusory energy of Yogamaya. So-called yogis are therefore allured by the superficial material perfections of anima, lagima, prapti, and so forth. Consequently, ordinary yogis cannot compare to Lord Rishabdeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Kon vasyakastam aparonagaschenmanoditanapyamavasya yogi yo yogamaya sprayat yudashta yasataya yena kita prayatnaha. Translation: Who is that mystic yogi who can follow the examples of Lord Rishabdeva even with his mind? Lord Rishabdeva rejected all kinds of yogic perfection which other yogis hanker to attain. Who is that yogi who can compare to Lord Rishabdeva? Here is mentioned the mystic perfection, siddhis. There are, and Prabhupada mentions eight primary mystic perfections. There are many actually. Those who have studied yoga a little bit, especially the higher levels, you have the Ashtanga yoga, and there are all different types of. Although yoga, Prabhupada always said yoga is one, means to connect with the Supreme Personality of Godhead ultimately. But there are different variations of it, and it's supposed to lead to the same goal. But sometimes people get distracted by other benefits of the yoga system. For example, in Ashtanga yoga, of course, we start with yama and niyama, moralistic principles, positive actions like truthfulness and cleanliness and svajaya, study, and these are positive practices. There are 5 positive practices and 5 negative practices. You have to, ahimsa is another positive practice, non-violence, and so just the opposite, violence and untruthfulness, uncleanliness, so on and so forth. These are so yama niyama in the Ashtanga, yama niyama. And then, of course, asana. Asana means all the different postures that are very beneficial, especially for making the body healthy and supple. Asana, pranayama. Pranayama means the breathing. Now, to follow this properly, one needs expert tuition. There are many in the Western countries who learn these different yoga techniques, and especially on the gross physical level, especially the asanas. There are many who have become quite proficient at practicing these asanas, and some are more difficult than others. Shirshasana, so many different types of asana. So there are many proficient, and pranayama is a little bit more subtle. The actual pranayama is a very detailed technique, and it actually to properly learn that, one has to practice for many years under a qualified guru, one who is expert in the technique of pranayama, breathing, proper breathing, and then it comes down to deeper levels of different life airs moving in the body, going through the different nadis, the different points in the body, so on and so forth, the pranayama, so yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara. Now, of course, pratyahara means withdraw. Now, the whole goal of yoga is to come to the spiritual position. And as I said, as mentioned here by Srila Prabhupada, the purpose, one can be distracted from the ultimate purpose going along the path. For example, just in the, not so many practice yama and niyama, the positive aspects of moral practice and avoiding the negatives. Not so many practice that, there may be some. But moreover, especially in Western countries, they concentrate on the asanas, some pranayama, and there's all sorts of ideas about that, whether how bona fide they are. Some are just following certain systems that they've read about or heard about somewhere, or someone's promoting, maybe generally coming from India, and nevertheless, so one practices asana, then one becomes very healthy. And so you become, and one begins to think, well, the goal of all this yoga is to become very healthy, and when we become very healthy, we can enjoy sense gratification more. That'll increase our, ability, because when you're, feeling good physically, and of course that helps one mentally also. So when one feels good physically, the body's working properly. We were just reading, where was this? In Auckland. At the New Varshana, the section of the Bhagavatam was about Narad Muni speaking to King Prachini Bahisha, who was a very good king, a very exalted, very pious, and performed a lot of, he made sure everything was going on nicely according to Varna and Ashram, and many different celebrations were there, especially ritualistic performances of the Karmakandiya section of the Veda, elevation, so on and so forth. But Narad Muni thought that this King Prachini Bahishat is very good, but he's very entangled in all these rituals. And although one may be elevated, still one has to go higher to the level of bhakti. So he began to tell him the story. He began to tell him a story, and he made up a king by the name of King Puranjana. King Puranjana, who was none other than King Prachini Bahishat, but he called him King Puranjana. King Puranjana actually refers to the living entity. And so the living entity was going in the forest and attracted to a beautiful woman who actually represented the intelligence, or the mundane intelligence, meaning the material energy. So there was an attraction. So because there's a desire for being attracted, therefore one is attracted. Now what was first? Is the material energy alluring us to be attracted, or we are attracted to the material energy? Actually, first was our desire. We desired to be attracted. And so the whole the material existence is created by the Supreme Personality of God to fulfill our desire to a certain extent. But ultimately it's not the reality. But nevertheless, Narad Muni told this story of King Puranjana, who wandered in the forest, representing the living entity, and were attracted to a beautiful girl who was represented the mundane intelligence, or the Maya aspect. And she was ultimately attracted to him. So there was that initial attraction, and then when there was an initial attraction, then he wanted to go deeper. He wanted to, there's mentioned how he appreciated all the different aspects of the girl, her beautiful hair, her, he wanted her. She was a bit shy. She had a head down. He wanted her to raise her head so he could see her beautiful face. And he commented on her beautiful eyes, even her eyebrows, and every aspect of her. So Prabhupada explains that this is significant in that as an analogy. As I said, the Puranjana represents the living entity, and the beautiful woman represents the mundane intelligence, or the Maya aspect of intelligence. And there's initial desire, initial attraction, and that initial attraction causes one to be enthusiastic about that attraction. Now, the attraction is for mundane things. And so then when one has that initial attraction and builds up an enthusiasm about it, then one wants to go deeper. One wants to explore it more. You have that initial attraction, and then so it's a general attraction to the world in general. Then you want to go more deeper. What are the aspects of the material world? This is represented by Puranjana, the living entity, being attracted to not only the girl in general, but they wanted to go deeper, wanted to appreciate her beautiful hair, her eyes, her eyebrows, her beautiful mouth, everything, all the bodily features. He started to go more deeper and being attracted to all aspects of this beautiful girl, meaning that the living entity is wants to go deeper than just general attraction, wants to explore, build up enthusiasm and then explore. So we see today that people are enthusiastic in general, especially when in the younger years, you're growing up, and then you get a little bit more freedom from under the parents and everything, and you want to go and explore the world and see what there is to offer. And you find people, but it's not only young people, all different ages people. They travel around all over the place to find what's going on in this country, what's going on in that country and the other country, so on and so forth. I always remember many years ago, I had when I was a brahmachari, we were traveling around on a bus doing Harinam and book distribution and programs, and we picked up a couple of hitchhikers. There was a boy and a girl, and they were from Switzerland or Sweden, one of those countries. And we said, yes, we're going to Melbourne. Where are you going? Oh, we want to go to the 90-mile beach. 90-mile. I'd never heard of it before myself. But no, actually, no, that's right. I had been there one time, 90-mile beach, even before I was a devotee. It's called the 90-mile beach. They're a little bit famous amongst people who like that sort of thing. So anyway, so we're going along and we're telling them, giving them some prashad, telling them about Krishna. They were asking questions. So then we stopped and I said, well, here's you can get off here. You can go to the 90-mile beach. So they said, they were all enthusiastic. So how do you get there? I said, well, you see that path there? There's a sign there. You take that path, you follow it all the way to the beach, and you turn right and you go on the sand. And then you walk 90 miles, and then you're gone on the 90-mile beach. So even they had to laugh about that one. So, when you get on the 90-mile beach, you look at, how long are you going to hang around on the 90-mile beach? You look out at the ocean, you look at the sand. And well, if you want to walk 90 miles along the 90-mile beach, that's why it's called 90 miles, because it goes for 90 miles. I said, just turn right and walk 90 miles. There's the 90-mile beach. So people have built up within their own minds some sort of phantasmagoria of, just so, these so-called beautiful things to see in the world. Certainly it appears so, and one feels a certain pleasure from that, but of course it's very short-lived. If I were to tell them, there's a 90-mile beach, now you can just live there for the rest of your life on that 90-mile beach, they would never do it. Who wants to live on the sand on the 90-mile beach? But it's just a temporary thing. It's temporary. So so the living entity wants to go deeper and explore. All right. We don't want one thing. We want a variety of things. It's not just about one thing, and the variety is the actual pleasure. The variety of it. We can do this, but then we go and do that, and then we go and do the other thing. All right, but after a while, after you've been doing that for a long time, and believe me, I've been traveling all over the world now for many decades, even that becomes very boring. Because, all right, it becomes the same old thing over and over again. You do it one time, you do it 2 times, you do it 3. After you've done it 100 times, even the variety of things becomes, it's basically the same thing in little slightly different variations of it. And so, someone who's been around a long time, who's traveled the world, and especially when one gets older, and then the body itself, which is your vehicle for enjoying the world, then the body starts to break down. You can no longer, maybe maybe you have an injury or something like that. You can't walk so well anymore, or just due to age, you can't see anyone. Just like you wear glasses. What happened? Where you all gone? Oh, there you are. Right. So you can't see anyone. You can't hear so well. You can't go so far. We used to be able to walk so far. You can't walk. Like all these trails that young people like to go up and down hills. And when you become older, you can't get up and down and so many things. So the very vehicle that you're relying on to give you the pleasure in the world. You want to see things with your eyes, hear things with your ears, smell things with your nose, touch things, and so on and so forth. That becomes more and more restricted as the body gets worn down. And the body does get worn down, and it's seemingly when one's young, and then it seems you think that it'll be for forever and ever and ever almost. That we can just go on doing this type of thing forever and ever. But as one gets older, one realizes the youth, the energy of youth goes away very quickly. The energy of youth. So therefore, one becomes very bewildered, and along the way, there's some. It's not that it's all smooth sailing. Anyone who's been a traveller will very easily tell you, yeah, well, I travelled here and I travelled to this country, and then we had a horrific time in that place. We had a horrific time. So it's not all smooth sailing. When you travel around, it's not that you're going to travel around, it's just going to be all enjoyment all the time. You and your friends, and you'll remain friends forever. And, quite often, I remember when I was young, I used to travel, we used to go places with some of my friends, and we'd camp out or something like that. Within a couple of days, we were all at each other's throats. I remember that. So even amongst yourselves, what to speak amongst other people. It's not all smooth sailing, but people are, because they have they're in ignorance. So Narad Muni was speaking to King Prachinibhasha, and he was pointing out that this Puranjana, the living entity, he's in ignorance. He's just accepting the material illusion as being the reality, and then therefore doesn't know anything else. So is holding on is holding on to that. All right, we get some knocks traveling around, but still it's worthwhile continuing and pursuing this. At least if you can't have it here, you can have it over here. I'll carve out a little niche for myself over there, and then we'll be happy ever after type of thing. But of course, no one can hold up their hand and say I'm always happy and all this type of thing. So it's a type of illusion that we have an initial desire, we become attracted, then we want to go deeper into that attraction to explore the various aspects of it, and thinking there's going to be more and more attraction here, more attraction there. So this is a type of illusion. So when one can do it just by doing it in their own way, one can do it by doing the yoga, for example, especially this Ashtanga yoga, and doing the asanas. One can become very healthy and very virile, and then that increases the desire to enjoy in the world. So as mentioned here, this is a distraction. This is distraction on the path of the yoga. The purpose of the yoga. You can sit. The purpose of the yoga. There's some chair, is there? There's some chair also here. You want to sit on the chair? So the purpose of the yoga is to attain liberation and go beyond the material world, but people get distracted along the path. So on that level, on the asana level, there can be distraction. Pratyahara means withdrawing the senses. Pratyahara, dharana, withdrawing the mind, and you start to get more internal on the mind level, And then, of course, when the mind's withdrawn from the externals, and then you start to go, especially on the dhyana level, fixing the mind on the spiritual aspect, fixing the mind, dhyana. And of course, one becomes perfect at that, then samadhi is total absorption on that platform. Now, on the level of dhyana, especially when you read about the yoga perfections, the siddhis, asana can give you a great power on the physical, the bodily. But then when you come to pratyahara, dharana, and dhyana, especially the steadying of the mind, then one can go. There's techniques that you can develop certain siddhis, certain powers that come from the mind platform. These are described in various works from Patanjali. Patanjali was a famous rishi who developed the yoga system. And so it's a great study and it's a great technique. It's not recommended in this age because hardly anyone can achieve it. But there are those who follow very strictly for a long time and start to achieve, and Prabhupada says that the 8 primary, there are many different sorts of them, but he names 8 primary ones. Anima siddhi, he says here, Mahima, Lagima, Prapti, Prakamya, Ishita, Vashita siddhi, so on. I don't know if he named all of them there. Kama Vaishita siddhi. Now here is that anima means you can in your subtle form, you can decrease your body so very small and you can just go anywhere, or you can increase your body very large, even externally, just like we saw Hanuman. Hanuman, when he jumped over Lanka, he increased himself to very large, very large. This is a city. Yeah, Hanuman had the cities. He was given all cities. There's a whole story about Hanumanji, how he gained all the cities. So Hanuman became very large, and with one jump, he jumped over the whole ocean to Lanka. So becoming small, and he actually manifested, and he manifested the anima, or the anima and mahima. Because when he jumped, he became very big, huge, and then when he went in the city, he turned himself very small. Went very small and just went everywhere. So Hanuman manifested all these things, and he manifested different cities. When Ravana tried to, when he gave the instruction, burn him, he couldn't be burnt. So this is another type of siddhi, a yogic perfection. And so you have this mahima siddhi becoming big, lagima. You become so light that you can fly. Now, generally, there's only birds and insects can fly around because their bodies are so light, they can fly. If we try to fly, we can't fly. We have to make big machines and we fly around in those machines. But just by ourselves, we can't fly. But there are birds, insects, those that they can fly. But a yogic perfection is that you can actually fly somehow or other. You get that power. This is called lagima prapti. And then you can just desire things, and then by subtly you can attain those things. So these are prapti, prakamya, ishita, vashita, and kamavashyata, means that you've got the powers of all the others. So these are the 8 primary siddhis. Now it is said that going along the path, as I mentioned in the Ashtanga yoga system, especially this dhyana yoga, getting to the dhyana in the meditation where you fix the mind is fixed. These siddhis especially come on that platform. They don't come just asana level or even pranayama level. They can be used on that higher level, but generally it is described, they come from this dhyana, and of course samadhi is total absorption. So in one sense, you're going along. The idea is to practice the yoga and be totally liberated from the material world. Leave the body behind and manifesting one's spiritual body, go beyond the material world, go to the spiritual world. That is the goal. But along the way, you can be distracted by a healthy body or by any of these siddhis. If you're able to attain them, you can just become absorbed in these activities. And so Prabhupada actually mentions in his purport that, where does he say here? Such cities are presented by the illusory energy of the Lord. The real purpose of the yoga is to achieve the favor and shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of God. But this purpose is covered by the illusory energy, Yoga Maya, manifesting as the Mahamaya. So she is testing. It's a test ultimately of the Supreme Personality of God. How much do you really want to be liberated from the world? Or do you still want things of the world? Do you still want? You've taken up the yoga, and the purpose actually is to become free from the world. Leave the material body, leave the material mind, with your spiritual form manifesting, bursting out from the material body, you go beyond the world to the spiritual world. So you're practicing this system to attain this. But along the way, there's all these distractions, can be distractions, and you gain these powers. Just like Hanuman had these perfections, but he wasn't distracted in his devotion to Lord Ram. They were just something he used. He didn't go away from Lord Ram and just do the mystic yoga. No. He used these things in the service of Ram. So these are not very important. There's many stories of devotees. Sometimes they manifest these cities, and someone says, "Oh, this is a very amazing thing. How you have done like that." Oh, this is not very important. God is giving one power to have the different city, but sometimes He gives to the devotee. Sometimes devotee uses, but we are not very attached to that thing. We are wanting to be attached to serving the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. So we see Hanuman, he was very attached to serving Lord Ram. So this is the proper, one can attain all sorts of powers. Even in the performance, if you don't get siddhis as such, when one performs devotional service, one becomes empowered to do many things that you didn't have before. Before you became a devotee, you didn't know how to speak on... and maybe you weren't accustomed to speaking publicly. I remember when I was a new devotee, they had a system to train the new bhaktas. They called it, the temple president of the night, he called it the bhakta of the night. Every night we're going to have bhakta of the night. And that was at the time of the Bhagavad Gita class. At the end of the Bhagavad Gita, who was assigned to give the Bhagavad Gita class, there would be a new bhakta, and he had to speak from a verse from Bhagavad Gita for 5 minutes. And all the elders were there. Of course, in those days, the elders were 6 months before. But anyway, the elders were sitting there, and they would hear your class, and then they would comment on how you presented the class. So then it was my turn. So then I studied the verse and everything like that. But then when I gave the class, I was supposed to speak for 5 minutes, but I found after 1 minute I ran out of things to say. And then I said, "Well, Hare Krishna, I think Prabhupada just about said it all here. Any questions?" And one of the Brahmanas said, "Well, very nice class, Bhakta so-and-so, but I think next time you can speak a little bit longer." So one becomes empowered over time to be able to speak, to be able to cook. Who knew cooking before they were devotee? Maybe some are trained in the cooking from the young age, but many of us didn't know any cooking. I remember one time I knew basic cooking, but one time when I came back from India, I had seen Prabhupada in India, and then Prabhupada came to Melbourne, and I forget which year that was exactly, but I think he came to open the Melbourne Mahaprabhu Mandir, and so I was in New Zealand. I was in New Zealand at the time. I was up at Auckland before New Varshana. And Mount Albert, and Grubalas Road, Mount Albert, in the temple there. Only the deities there were just Radhagiridhari, and we had a little Jagannath. And so they said, "Look, you've just been and seen Prabhupada, and and I wanted to go. And we all want to go to Melbourne to see Prabhupada there. And so then it's only fair that you stay back and look after the deities while we go there." And so I said, "Well, I understand, but I don't have much experience. I know how to do the arati and everything in the puja, but I've never done any dressing of the deities. And cooking, I know basic rice. but I've never done offerings to prepare for the different types of the offering. I've never learnt that. We've got a few days. We will teach you how to do all the cooking, how to do the Mangalati sweets, how to do all these different things. So in a few days they taught me how to do the burfi, the rasgulla, the rasmalai, the gulab jamun. And these things, you know, if you're a cook, they're not so easy to make. I never made rasmalai before, or rasgulla, or any of these things, but they were teaching. And so, and then they taught all the different types of, to make the different types of, and what I had to cook, the different offerings. So in a few days, and then what I didn't learn, I said, well, I don't know, some things I don't know how to cook. He said, here's the cookbook, just learn these things. And so, and the dressing of the deities, just a crash course. Come inside, we will teach you how to dress Radhagiri Hari. And so, all of a sudden I had to, and I was the only one there. I had one helper who was doing the paraphernalia, and only me. And I was thinking back now, it wasn't very responsible that they left just one pujari there. But anyway, so then I was doing it, and I had to do every offering, I had to wake the deities, I had to do the Mangalati, lead the kirtan also, then come out and then dress the deities. I think the opening of the deity was a little bit late, but dressing the deities and cook the offering also, somehow or other, finish and then cook the offering to offer. And Mangalati sweets I would make beforehand, so they were offered at the Mangalati time. And so then cooking, and then going, and then after a little while cooking lunch, and then going and offering, and then of course we know, and doing arti, everything like that, putting the deities to rest. And at that time also, I had to go out. Now I had a couple of hours after putting the deities to rest before I woke them up. Between 1 and 3:30, I had to go out and sell books to get some money to pay for the bhoga. So because we were in Mount Albert, which is close to downtown, I just whipped downtown and went out on Sankirtan and sold a few books, made some money, and used that money to buy bhoga and wake the deities up. And luckily some some of our Indian congregation brought some bhoga, but nevertheless I needed some other things, so I had to do all that thing. So then we learned how to do that thing. And before we didn't know anything about these activities, but somehow or other we're doing that type of activity. So in the course of devotional service, we're learning many things. But if we become distracted of our own ability and we become puffed up, then this is very much inhibiting our advancement. I think we start thinking, I'm a very great cook now, I can do anything, I'm a very great this, I'm a very great that. So one has to be very careful not to be distracted, even in our society of devotees. But certainly those who practice the yoga, can be distracted on the path of the different types of Astanga yoga. So Lord Rishabdev, he wasn't distracted, and when he retired, he just went off to the forest, and he practiced a type of yoga that's called Jada Yoga. Jada Yoga. In the second canto of the Bhagavatam, there's a reference to Lord Rishabdev. Well, this is the fifth canto. There's more detailed explanation of the teachings of Lord Rishabdev, the activities of Lord Rishabdev. But in the second canto also, in the list of the incarnations, Lord Rishabdev is mentioned. And it's mentioned there that he practiced the Jada Yoga. Jada Yoga means stone, like a stone. You become like a stone means you become completely detached to any influence of material energy. Some there are some have developed the Jada Yoga technique to include so many other things in the modern day. But in the time of Lord Rishabdev, the Jada Yoga system was to, just be whatever's going on, very hot, very cold, walking on the rough road, sleeping just on the bare ground, to be unaffected, just remain fixed in your position. So here, as Prabhupada explains, that Lord Rishabdev, he wasn't interested he wasn't interested in this anima, lagima, mahima. He didn't interested in any of that. He practiced jara yoga, but he wasn't distracted by the different activities of the jara yoga. So he was so elevated in his practices and so absorbed in Krishna consciousness. Of course, he's the Supreme Lord himself, but he was so absorbed on the spiritual platform. Who can compare to Lord Rishabdev? This is what Sukadev Goswami is saying here. Who can actually compare? What yogi, not who, but in the previous verse, he was glorifying Lord Rishabdev, and the whole dynasty of Lord Rishabdev is glorified by his appearing in it. And here he said, and as far as the yoga practice, he practiced the Dhyana yoga, but which yogi can compare to Lord Rishabdev? He achieved the actual goal of the yoga, to become situated totally on the transcendental platform. So the chapter goes on, not only that he mastered all that, he is the master of all the Vedic knowledge, he is the master of so many things, so he has attained the topmost perfection. So Hare Krishna, thank you very much for listening to the class this morning. I'll read this verse again. Kurvasya kastam aparo nagachchen mano nitena yabhavasya yogi yu yogamaya sprayat yudashta yasata yena kita prayatna. Who is that mystic yogi who can follow the example of Lord Rishabdev even with his mind? Lord Rishabdeva rejected all kinds of yogic perfection which other yogis hanker to attain. Who is that yogi who can compare to Lord Rishabdeva? Hare Krishna. Does anyone have any question or comment? Yes.
Thank you, Maharaj, for your class. I was wondering, you're speaking a little bit about Puranjana, how it's the living entity who wants to enjoy it.
So about
Puranjana.
Puranjana, yeah.
The living entity, how he wants to enjoy sort of deeper and deeper varieties of material nature. So I was thinking, sometimes when we come to Krishna consciousness, we can still have this lingering desire that we want to enjoy, and we want to find different varieties of enjoyment. So how can we dovetail that with devotional service?
Still a lingering desire.
Yes.
Well, just like the story of that Giriraj Maharaj tells that he was walking with Prabhupada, he was still brahmachari then. He said, Prabhupada, he said that, I'm practicing Krishna consciousness, I think everything's going all right, but sometimes I'm thinking of Maya. And Prabhupada stopped, he said, oh. No, he said, no, sometimes you're in Krishna consciousness and mainly you're in Maya. That is the actual position. So, when we come to the Krishna consciousness, there'll be many attachments still lingering, and so that's to be expected. One has to be realistic about their own position. That's to be expected. You've had many lifetimes of in trying to enjoy the material world. That's imprinted on your mind. So now you're in another body, with that imprint on the mind, and Krishna arranging to fulfill all those desires, you've been engaging in this life and in so many lives. So therefore, now we've come very fortunately to take up Krishna consciousness. We're following along. Those imprints on the mind will still be there, but they may be they're lingering. Just like Prabhupada says that you pull out the plug of the fan, the blade will still turn for some time until it stops altogether. So therefore, one has to tolerate that and divert those thoughts into thoughts of rendering service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So then with patience and perseverance and remaining confident on the path of devotional service, gradually, and there may be some missteps along the way, just like relapses, for example. So it's not like someone is taking some medicine and is inattentive to taking the medicine, perhaps not taking the prescribed dosage, and a little bit inattentive, and then all of a sudden gets a relapse again. So what's it? Now you have to again start taking the regulated dose of your medicine. That's what you'll be told. What you weren't, you were a little slack on following the prescription. So you have to again take it and seriously follow it. So too, there may be some lapses, and due to inattentiveness, due to so many things. Someone asked me the question last night, how to become more pure. Well, especially she asked about pure in chanting. Yes, well, just like every morning in basically all our temples, we recite what are the 10 offences in the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. The Nam Aparads. I said there are many different types of aparads. There's Guru Aparad, Vaishnava Aparad, Seva Aparad, Nam Aparad. One is to be careful going along the path. You have to develop the proper mentality, proper consciousness, and therefore we have guidance from our great acharyas. Rupa Goswami has given Hari Bhakti, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu and his Hari Bhakti Vilas. And so many nice shastras that describe, do these types of activities, avoid these types of activities. This will help you go along the path. And when there's relapse, and maybe due to inattentiveness or some aparads or something like that, then seek shelter of the Vaishnavas, seek shelter of the Guru, and ask, how can I overcome these obstacles that have come on my path? And there will be obstacles. There will be obstacles. And those who are advanced are those who have experienced in knowing what are the obstacles and how to overcome the obstacles. They have experienced the obstacles, and following in the footsteps of their Guru and the senior Vaishnava, they've overcome these obstacles. So, yes, there will be lingering. It's to be expected, but we should persevere. We should persevere. And I was telling the story last night that one new bhakta came and said, Maharaj, I'm committing a lot of offences to this chanting. I better I just stop chanting. I'm committing too many offences. I said, no, that's not the solution. Nama parara yuktanam nama neva hanatikam avishanti prukti tanivati karani cha. Yes, the nam aparads may be there. So what's the solution? Solution, you keep chanting, but just be mindful and take association of the devotees very strongly, and then keep, with perseverance and confidence, keep chanting and be mindful and try to reduce, and the way to take strength from the association of your God brothers and God sisters, of the Guru, and so on and so forth. So then you go forward like that. Stopping, that's not going to be the solution. It'll become even more strong. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. So of course one has the yogic powers. So some may attain these powers, but these days it's that type of the yoga system that's not recommended. Hardly anyone can follow it, and there are many who are posing to have these types of powers. I always remember the story Prabhupada told he said in Calcutta there was one so-called famous yogi. He was living by the side of the Ganga, and he was just sitting in the one spot, doing breathing and asana and meditation. And so many around were seeing him, and they were very attracted. They came and they had to take his darshan, or he's a yogi there, and he's we will benefit by taking his darshan. Many would come and give him donations as a sign of appreciation, and he would be very detached. He would say, no, I don't accept this thing. Just give to Mother Ganga. Give to Mother Ganga here. Throw in your donation, just throw in the Mother Ganga, and she will give the blessings. I don't accept these things. So then and he told them the same thing to many people who came and presented him many things as a donation. But some people were getting a bit suspicious of him. And then late at night, a couple hid in a distance and just observed his activities. And late at night, at midnight, when he was looking around, he saw no one was around. Then he went to the Ganga where those things were thrown, and there was actually he had a net there, hidden from view, and then he pulled up the net to get all those things that were thrown there, and then keep them, and then stashed them over there. So then he was exposed. The Prabhupada tells, yes, there are some who follow and actually achieve the perfection, but they're a very rare type of person. Many are just charlatans, just posing as, and they're saying many things that appear to be very attractive, and they learn different things, and but their main purpose is to make a living and earn a lot of money. But actually, even if one can attain the perfection, it's not recommended in the Kali Yuga. It's a very difficult process. Better to do the Bhakti Yoga, which is made very simple, especially from the appearance of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and we know we do that. It is recommended every age one has to do yajna, and of course in this age it is the Sankirtan yajna. So follow the prescribed method. One is Bhaktivinoda Thakur has mentioned that it's best to follow. Of course, one has to follow one's guru, and all the acharyas are saying the same thing. But the immediate gurus, they know they are presenting according to Kala Patra Desha, time, place, and circumstance. So best, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, best to follow the more recent gurus. Not that they're saying anything different, but they're presenting it in a way that is just applicable to modern society. You know, the previous gurus from the thousands of years ago, they made statement for that particular time. The same essential knowledge is there, but how to apply it may be slightly different, or maybe not so applicable to the modern age. So therefore, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says better to follow what the recent gurus, what they're saying, and then you can apply it in the modern age. There's someone else. That's one last question. Yes.
Thank you, Maharaj. You mentioned that if we get power given by the Lord, we might get puffed up. And on the other hand, if we lack certain abilities, we become morose. And that's,
we lack certain abilities, we become?
We lack, morose.
Morose.
Sad, so that's another distraction. So how can we be situated in
becoming puffed up or simultaneously morose? Is it two parts to the one question, or is it two separate questions?
I think two situations, but the question is how we can be peaceful and not get distracted because we have.
Well, I mean, you know, as far as those things, yes, you have to be careful that you become very proficient in your practice of devotional service. You become a very expert speaker. You can get puffed up. I mean, I am the greatest speaker. I've learned how to play the mridanga and lead the kirtan, how to play the harmonium. So then you become very puffed up. You're thinking, you start looking at everyone, they're not so good. I am more the better one. I'm doing the kirtan more better than this one. So you become puffed up, and so then that will be. And then when you become proud, this is mentioned in the second count of the Bhagavatam by Prabhupada in one of his purports. Then he says, then when you become proud, then you'll commit offense. Then you'll insult someone because you're very proud, and you'll feel threatened. When you're proud, you think you're a possessor of so much ability, and then someone will come along who's actually better, and then you'll feel threatened, and then you'll insult them or demean them or something. So then you'll commit offense. So pride comes from the ignorance, it comes the pride, and then from the pride, from that ignorance and that pride, that you can make offense. So you have to be careful when you're getting very proud. And I was saying last night, I think the other day here also, that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says two things are very important: chanting Hare Krishna mantra, of course, associating with the devotees, and he said Trinada Pisani Chinatarora Pisa Hishna Namani Namanani Nakirtani Asahari, more tolerant than the tree, more humble than the blade of grass, isn't it? The straw in the street. One has to be very humble, and he said you wear that instruction around your neck like a necklace. So chanting, associating, and humility. So humility is very important. And then on the other hand, just be following devotional service for the sake of following devotional service, not for the sake of some result in devotion. The result, you want to see some nice, you want to sell a lot of books, or you want to make a nice temple. So you'd like to see that, but you don't become overly attached to these things. Whatever, I'd like to do that, see that happen, but ultimately the result is with Krishna. So when you become too attached to the result of a thing, then you can become morose when you don't achieve that result. You become morose, and I remember when someone wrote to Prabhupada, one of his godbrothers from India, Prabhupada was struggling a little bit when he first went to America, and he wasn't achieving much seeming success. So one of his godbrothers wrote that, said, well, it seems that you haven't been successful there in America, maybe you should just come back to India. And Prabhupada wrote, he said, yes, maybe seemingly, but actually even the attempt is glorious. Just attempting it is success, because devotional service is absolute. Any activity, result, or attempt, or any aspect of it is success, because this is eternal activity. So he wrote like that back. He said, yes, I appreciate what you say. It's seemingly, I have not been sick, but actually even the attempt is glorious. Even the attempt is actually a success. And of course later on, it was shown that Prabhupada was able to, Krishna desired to have so many things happen. And so therefore, in our devotionals, we have to be very careful, become attached to seeing things happen, and when they don't happen according to our expectation, then we become morose. So if that moroseness leads to a decline in your Krishna consciousness, then that's mundane moroseness. And you can be a morose in a spiritual sense, in that you're morose that you can't render more high quality devotional service, and that is an impetus to increasing your devotional service. Increasing your devotional service, so that moroseness can be used in a positive way if it increases your devotion. Oh, my quality of chanting wasn't so good, I didn't render such good service, you get a little morose. But that actually at the next moment you become very enthusiastic because of not being able to perform to a high level. But ultimately you can't be attached, you have to just perform the service. And if you're going to be attached to anything, just be attached to rendering the service. That attachment's good. All right, any other final question? Thank you, very good question. Hare Krishna. All right, Jai. All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Shri Gaura Nitai ki Jai. Jai Gaura Premanandi.